Well, good morning. Welcome back to the broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Friday, December 15th, 2023. And our top story today, organ aging, predicting an individual's risk for disease and death. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Dr. Jarod Rutledge is with Stanford Medicine. Jarod, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's nice to be here.
And this study, I mean, I would consider this to be groundbreaking. And from your perspective as someone who helped lead the study, conduct the study, being able to figure out what organ or organs could fail first, second, third, that's a pretty powerful amount of information.
Yeah, we definitely hope so. I think the idea behind the study is to be able to use this information for all kinds of personalized medicine approaches and drug development. So we hope it's a powerful approach for people to use.
So Jarod, let's talk about biological age, because I think that's an important place to start. We all are aging, but some of us may age at different rates relative to others. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's one of the findings of the study. And it's honestly something that we've understood at an abstract level in medicine for a long time. You know, some people go on to develop heart disease, other people develop kidney disease or Alzheimer's disease. And we understand some of the mechanism of that right at the very end, but we don't understand what it is about the differences in how we're aging over our whole lives that kind of leads us to that point of disease. And so one of the goals of the study was to really dissect that in more detail. And that is one of the findings, is that in the population, there are sort of different rates of aging. And even within a single person, you could have different organs aging at different rates.
And is that environmental, or is that, I mean, from your findings, is that genetic, or is it behavioral, or a combination of all three?
Yeah. It's definitely a combination. And that's one of the really exciting directions that we want to take the research, is really drilling into like what specific components are behavioral, what components are, behaviorally coming from your diet, or what's coming from your genetics. It's not something that we get into a lot of detail in the study. I think actually one of the advantages of the approach that we developed is that it's very integrative. So it's able to sort of sum the total of those things. So we're capturing both genetic and behavioral and environmental components. And one of the future directions is really to get at like which pieces of which kinds of organ aging are maybe coming from genetics.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the study. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how you conducted the study? Clearly, you had subjects and you were able to test them. They didn't give you their organs. They made them, I would assume, available to you so that you could do some level of testing. But who were these subjects? You don't have to tell me not who they are individually, right, but the types of people they are.
Who they were individually, so.
What's that?
I don't know who they were individually.
Okay.
It's a very blinded study. So.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and no, thankfully we didn't have to take organs from anybody in the study. That's really one of the exciting advantages of the approach, is that we can measure the aging of all of the organs in the body through blood. And so we take just a single blood sample from each participant in the study, and then we measure thousands of different proteins that are in the blood. And we can use information from those proteins. We worked out a method to use information from those proteins to understand the aging of different organs. And so the way that we ran the study was we took blood samples from about 5,000 people. And these are people who are spanning the whole adult lifespan. So our youngest participant is 18. Our oldest participant is 105. And we have, a pretty good representation across that age range. And we have the study split into several components. So there's actually independent studies coming from different universities and different organizations. So we have a study run at Stanford, a study run at Washington University, St. Louis, another one run in New York at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and a couple of others. And so we take in one subset, a couple of the study subsets are just healthy participants only. So that means we're screening out people with serious disease. And from that couple thousand people, we do some artificial intelligence, machine learning, along with all the proteins that we're measuring to figure out kind of the expected aging trajectory for every organ. And then we can go into these other studies run at other universities, do the same blood sampling. We can look at how people's organs are aging relative to our healthy population. And then we can try to understand if people have older organs in these other studies, is that impacting their disease risk or anything like that? And so a lot of these studies we have really dedicated medical teams that have been following patients for many years. And in some cases, we have 20 or even 30 years of follow-up. So we can take a blood sample sort of at an early point in time, and then we know, because we've followed these patients for 30 years, sort of how diseases develop, and we can use information from that first blood sample to project into the future and understand things about organ aging.
Last question before we go to commercial break, and this may be way out of left field, but did you find any consensus as terms of what maybe a specific organ of all the organs in your body would age faster? Like for example, across all the subjects, the heart or the lungs or the liver, they all, for the most part, not all, but a majority age quicker than other organs. Was there any commonality in that regard, or is it really dispersed?
Yeah, so two comments there. As far as we can tell from our study, it really is quite dispersed. And I think one of the surprising findings from the study is just how many different ways there are to age. We weren't expecting quite the diversity that we saw in terms of there are really, 20 or 30 different ways you can age in the population. We see these different groups of sort of organs aging together. But that's really at the population level. I think part of the question you're asking maybe is like, do we know, does one organ age first, for example?
Yes.
And
You're much more succinct than I am, Jarod. And your level of education.
Thank you. And that's actually a question that we're still working on. The trick to answering that question in a rigorous way scientifically is you need to sample the same people over time for many years, and you all ideally you'd want to start with them being pretty young and follow them and take their blood many times. And so that wasn't really in the design of this first study, because we were really just taking one sample per person. And it's generally pretty difficult to plan those kinds of many decades long studies, but it's something that we're working on, is trying to find other groups to work with who already have those cohorts of people that they've been following in that way. And we can do that. We can ask that question of are there specific organs that age first, and do they maybe even influence the aging of other organs? So I think it's a really exciting question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jarod, as I said, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the difference in aging organs, what it means for aging overall. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network. Well, Jarod, thanks so much for staying with us. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2 this morning.
Absolutely.
And I think my heart aged a little bit faster during the commercial break. I don't know. Jarod, let's talk about the practical implications. In all seriousness, this is really groundbreaking that organs can age in different ways over different periods of time. Let's talk about our aging population. What does this mean practically for disease treatment, but also maybe extending our longevity, which everyone seems to be very interested in these days?
Yeah, we hope that this really lays the groundwork for a number of different practical applications. Of course, there's still more work to be done before I'm really confident about taking this directly into the clinic to work with individual patients. But certainly one of the goals here, and really we think we've laid the groundwork for, is to do more personalized preventative care that you could do with your own team of doctors, where you could understand really not only what diseases are you at risk for as you're aging, but also are the things that you're doing working for your body. Are you able to maintain a lifestyle, a diet, and a medication regimen that is supporting healthy aging of your organs? So that's definitely one major part of the study's goal, is to enable that personalized medicine in the future.
And could you were talking about machine learning, which is a whole nother fascinating topic, but could you actually get predictive analytics where if you kept all things the same, meaning you didn't smoke, you didn't drink, you ate pretty much the same diet, that you could actually predict what, for example, if you needed a transplant or you needed you might get a certain disease? Would that come into play? Because it's not only preventative, it's also kind of predictive of predicting what could happen to you.
Yeah, exactly. And so we didn't look at transplant specifically, but we did look at a bunch of other diseases, and we already do have those predictive analytics for many diseases. So we can look at someone's profile in their heart and understand, what's their future heart health. Will they develop heart disease, for example? And we can do the same for the brain and many other organs, as well as an overall sort of multi-morbidity and mortality estimate. So all things being equal, we do have a pretty strong ability to predict future mortality even.
How do you follow up on this body work? You said you talked about there are several labs. I'm going to call them labs, institutes that are doing this type of work. You're building a cohort, a set of cohorts, and a set of data. What's the next step in the iterative phase of doing this type of research?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there are a lot of different directions that we want to take the research, and hopefully it becomes a sort of larger community effort within science to really push this forward. One of the things that we already touched on is I'm really excited about really being able to watch people age over time for many decades and understand really, like, in a detailed way, the sequence of aging events that happen in different organs. And can we understand maybe if certain organs are aging first, or maybe their aging is being caused by other things. Another, I think, really important direction to go is just to understand even even more diseases than we try to look at in the study. So in the current study, we look at a number of important diseases like heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, muscular wasting. But there are things that we haven't looked at yet. Like, we didn't really have an opportunity in our studies to look at many cancers. So I think that's another direction that we'd like to take the research.
Yeah, well, you have to start somewhere, and you have to, I guess, I'm not a scientist, but building upon research and continuing to evolve the research, it's going to be important. And look, we're an aging society, not only here in America, but all this research has applications across the globe, China, in Asia, in Europe, et cetera, where there are aging populations. Jarod, we're going to have to leave it there. Great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Jeffrey.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content? Then visit our website. We're back again tomorrow for BRN Weekly. Jane King will be back to break down markets, and then we'll be taking a look back at some of our best segments for the week. You won't want to miss it. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
But if you're tired of the same
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.